Hello, everybody. Welcome to my name is Bogus Hangout. I'm going to have our guest introduce himself. Terry?
Terry Van Horn, Toronto, Ontario, retired.
Thomas?
Thomas Sickle, founder of Blueprint Marketing, currently in Boca Raton Beach.
And I'm Bill Slawski of SEO by the Sea, and I'm the Director of SEO Research for Go Fish Digital in North Carolina. I'm in Carlsbad, California, so I'm the opposite coast from both of you. You're both East Coast people, right? You're both 3 hours time difference?
Yeah, it's 3 p.m. for me.
I'm a late person. We're not actually on the coast, pretty far from it, really.
Yeah, you're a bit inland, but you're still Eastern time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
You got to travel many miles to change the time zone.
It was tough getting used to Pacific time.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. My fiance flew back from Ukraine, which is 10 hours difference, and then started a job, and she did it like it was nothing. I was like, what are you doing? But she just woke up and did it. She put herself right on the time track. I don't know how you do that, but
I was supposed to visit Ukraine last year. I'm actually glad I didn't fly across country.
yeah, no, I visited in November 2019. We got engaged and we flew to Ukraine and Germany for 2.5 months. We came back in February, and COVID was like here. So prior to that, it would have been.
I spent some time in a German airport, but that's it.
Yeah, that's always fun. You get to see the guys dressed up and the dogs and stuff.
Didn't like the European airports.
No?
I was on Lufthansa.
Lufthansa is a great airline. You fly into Frankfurt or Munich?
I had a layover in Frankfurt.
Yeah, Frankfurt hop. Yeah. That's one of the busiest airports in the world.
I can tell.
Yeah. Munich is a much better airport than Frankfurt as far as efficiency goes, but you're right. Like,
we had to take a bus out to a plane from the airport.
oh, yeah.
And then you had us climb up a section of stairs that connected to the back of the plane. So this way people could enter the back of the plane and the front of the plane simultaneously.
The DB Cooper door. Yeah, that they don't let you use in the US anymore. You can go in the front and the back. Yeah, it is different. I think most of the things that travel through Central Europe land in Frankfurt for some reason or another. It seems like that's a huge hub.
That's so the people in first class don't have to mix with the unwashed.
Wait, does this make me first class or does this make me unwashed?
Yeah, no.
So we were talking about machine IDs before we get to this destination. John Yu is saying don't use machine IDs and same as tags.
Yeah, because there's a chance, not necessarily machine IDs. He said the IDs URL from Google's stuff, basically.
Okay, so yeah, that makes sense.
They could change, I guess.
So we did come up with a statement that you can use Wikipedia, links to Wikipedia pages.
Yeah.
If you don't have a Wikipedia page, you can use a link to a business profile, to a contact page.
Yeah.
So something that tells more about the person or the business.
I think if it was a business, you could link to their Google business page. Would probably be good, same as.
If there's an industry page, I know Knowledge Panel for me shows Search Engine Land article information about me, and it shows Search Engine Journal article about me.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Now it says you're an author on those sites. It doesn't link to I looked at it this morning. I can't look at my own. I don't have one.
It says I'm an author now.
Yeah, you're an author at Search Engine Land and search engine journal.
I didn't see that. I don't Google myself enough, maybe.
But then too, I go to those sites quite a bit, and that may have changed the knowledge panel based on my.
You see, it says, author at Search Engine Land, author at, mine just says Search Engine Land. Then it shows your education, when you were born, and editor, Go Fish, director of search marketing at Go Fish Digital, and editor SEO by the Sea.
Author at Search Engine Land. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah. I'm also aware of, they've got me listed as being a notable graduate of Widener University, Delaware Law School.
Yep.
I'm one of 20 some.
Wow.
I'm like one of the few that's not a lawyer.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see people that go into that get a degree, such a specialized degree.
And I'm right there.
Lawyers don't realize they made a mistake, right?
I'm right there next to Terry Van Horn, but not this one.
Right.
Oh, when you click on that, it brings up a list of people, and one of them is another Terry.
Yeah, he graduated from my law school too.
He was a senator or a congressman, something in the government.
But he's dead now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Until they put up the knowledge panels, he couldn't even get hardly on the first page. I dominated it.
He stole your spot.
Well, because he's a notable, I'm just a guy who writes all over the place.
I think even if you're dead, you can still show up in Wikipedia.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that's like a class of notable but dead.
Yeah, yeah, they should have the deceased thing over them, because, like, I mean, you have people also search for Matt Cutts, people like Tim Berners-Lee, Steve Jobs, George Orwell.
I only recognized one name on that list when I looked at it, and that was Matt Cutts.
Yeah, I don't know why people are searching for people like George Orwell. And
people influential in technology or writing, but Orwell's an author.
Gene Roddenberry is the guy who came up with Star Trek.
Ah.
So why he's there, I have no idea.
I think it's just showing the scope of the people that also look at you.
Yeah, it's
Would
reflect
a lot of our interests.
Aldous Huxley, George Orwell.
Not bars. Fit the profile.
Yeah, because if you go to, let's see, if we go click on Matt Cutts, you see you got Rand Fishkin, Danny Sullivan, you, and Serge Brin. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So there is a method to it, the way that it, yeah.
I think it reflects the interest of a lot of the people who search for.
Absolutely.
It could be worse.
Yeah.
I could have other people.
Oh yeah. When you think about it, it could be way worse. But like your Twitter profile for some reason doesn't show up in your Instagram, Facebook, YouTube does.
I'm seeing a lot less of Instagram and all those social platforms in the results of the first page from what we used to see. Used to see a pretty good list of the social profiles of people on the first page of results, but I'm seeing less and less of that.
Google said that you don't have to put the social profiles in the schema.
Right. You
For
don't
knowledge
need
panel.
to do those same as anymore.
And I think once they said to stop doing that and people stopped doing it, they stopped showing those.
Huh.
Or they limited the amount that they were showing of them.
That makes sense, I guess. They're probably they don't really have any direct competition, but for social media profiles right now, but probably want to turn people back to Google anyway. Whatever they can do.
They don't have Google Plus to send people to anymore.
I know. It's so sad without it. Such a great system.
Google Plus had some nice features to it, and it had good conversations.
I agree with that. It definitely did.
When you think about it, though, most social platforms, like if I saw a list of social platforms for Bill, I would go to Facebook and Twitter, all the rest. If he was on 5 others, I wouldn't go to them because A, I don't have the app, right? You only are on, unless you're, join everything.
Yeah.
Which I never understood that. Where do you get the time to do it, for one?
Yep. No,
I could barely cover Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
Forget Instagram and all the other ones,
Yeah, Instagram's a bit much for me. I agree. Like they're all great, but I definitely agree with you.
Instagram is easy because you take pictures, you snap one, you press a button saying share to Instagram. You write a little text, and
Instagram,
it takes no time.
but Instagram is probably the most personalized platform because when you're putting stuff on Instagram, 9 times out of 10, it's all personal.
Yeah.
Right. It's what you're eating, what you're doing. You're not putting references to articles or anything like that.
Right.
It's just what you're personally doing.
You can't link to things at all. Right.
Right. I really don't care what people had for lunch or how it looked. Sorry, just doesn't interest me.
Yeah, no, I've never understood the whole Instagram food thing either.
Oh, that used to drive me nuts. When Twitter first came out, people used to say, "Oh, I'm having this for dinner." Who the fuck cares? I don't care what you're having for dinner.
I asked the people just text it to me directly so I can. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's the worst.
So the guy mentioned me on a thread he started where he was talking about Lsi Keywords and how they help SEO.
I saw that one.
And then I responded to him by saying, no, they don't use Lsi Keywords, and he blocked me.
Doesn't want bad press. Yeah, it's insane that they actually people think Lsi keywords are actually a real thing or have anything to do with that SEO at all.
Because they're tool makers who develop SEO tools that use Lsi Keywords. And they claim that Lsi Keywords really exist, the real things. They may or may not use LSI, but they don't care.
Right.
A bunch of synonyms that are created by a database tool.
And the fact that Google doesn't use LSI, they don't care about that either.
That's the big one.
Just as long as people will send them money for their LSI tool. It's all
they
that
see semantic and indexing, and that's all they see. They don't really see latent.
And when you say nothing in latent semantic indexing has anything to do with keywords.
Yeah, it does. Database.
They'll say, but that's what we can sell you.
Yeah, you're not going to buy a database tool.
Yeah, you can't even use keywords and contextual stuff.
Yeah. Though I did have somebody saying Lsi keywords are the contextual part of entities.
Well, that's half correct.
And I said, what planet are you from?
Well, they're correct in it's about entities.
But the contextual part of entities are the attributes,
Right.
the key value pairs that
Right.
describe the dimensions and the different aspects of factual aspects of an entity. They've got nothing to do with latent semantic indexing.
Right.
That's like,
Other than their words.
yeah, they are words.
Which people will pay for tools from SEO tool makers.
LSA is latent semantic analysis, which is apparently, according to Wikipedia now, a technique in natural language processing. Jeez. Yeah.
So latent semantic indexing was developed by Bell Labs in 1988. Latent semantic analysis is related to Bell Labs' patented technology because it describes a comparison between those words that get indexed.
That's useful.
In a singular value decomposition approach.
Yeah, that makes sense. That could be useful.
It has nothing to do with how well your page ranks for a specific keyword.
No, but finding other, I'm not saying LSI keywords are legitimate at all. If the analysis, correct me if I'm wrong, could find out the top 10 keywords or the keywords you're missing from your site that are ranking in the top 3, would that be latent semantic analysis?
Latent semantic indexing is a way of looking at all the words on a page at the same time to understand co-occurring words and which words tend to co-occur together.
Yeah.
Co-occurrence being the most important part.
Right, co-occurrence is real.
But it's a fairly small corpus of documents, and index is not much.
Right,
it's not like BERT, which is millions of words.
Right, it's all of Wikipedia and everything else on the web that has any value.
Right, and LSI is a lot smaller than that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Wow. Yeah,
Well,
so
if you look at how LSI is supposed to work, it actually is impossible to do on the scale that Google does it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And Google doesn't do it. Just people claim that Google uses LSI, and they don't.
Even the original people who said that Google used LSI backed down from it later. That would be Dan Thies and Mr. Rhodes.
The guys who developed LSI didn't develop probabilistic latent semantic indexing, which came in 2003 or 2004, and which was used for paid search.
Yeah.
It used statistics instead of grabbing a corpus of documents and seeing how they were related semantically. It estimated. Using statistical information.
Yeah, without having literally what Bing and Google what Google has literally, you can't do it. I mean, Bing might have a shot at it one day. They have the access to the documents, but
No, the patent from Bell Communications gives an example of indexing of 8 books.
Oh, jeez.
And that's how small of an index it is.
Oh, yeah, that's worthless. Yeah. There's nothing to do with what would actually matter on the web.
Don't know how many books worth of information is on the web, but it's more than 8.
80 billion or something.
I mean, the book corpus in Google is millions of books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I can't even imagine how many actual.
Have you ever tried to use the Ngram viewer?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So you look up words and it'll tell you how frequently they show up in books.
Yep.
So I looked up LSI keywords. It said There are no known instances of LSI keywords.
In all of Google books.
Right.
I like the Ngram viewer. It can give you topics and things like that. It's somewhat helpful, but geez, yeah. LSI keywords are. I mean, it's latent semantic indexing, not latent semantic indexing keywords. Which is, yeah, we're gonna scan a small bit
there are a couple SEO tool makers who create what's called LSI keywords. If you read their pages, they provide links to the Wikipedia page on LSI and say, go find out more about LSI here.
People just read it over and get glossy eyed.
You go to the LSI keyword page, or you go to the LSI page and look for keywords. There's no keywords there.
Yeah.
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 So
it's basically like testing the water in the ocean by trying to go to your sink and testing a glass of water and seeing if it's any.
yeah. So how many rich results per page should you aim for?
One
type.
Oh, okay.
Search result.
Breadcrumbs. I think are we counting those?
Breadcrumbs aren't really a rich result all the time.
Yeah, not all the time.
I mean, there are different types of rich results. You search for Bruce Springsteen songs, and they'll give you a big list at the top page, which show a bunch of Springsteen songs. You search for Red Dwarf episodes, and they'll give you similar lists of different TV shows from Red Dwarf.
But if we're talking about like trying to take up parts of the SERPs, right?
Like stars, like reviews of products,
review
or
stars,
product information, yeah.
FAQs, things like that. Yeah, I'd say
they won't show more than one.
Right, breadcrumbs and one.
Stuff like that. So if you have FAQs and you also have product information,
you
don't only show one.
Yeah, you get one or the other.
You get what they show.
Yep.
What they decide.
In the past, when I've tried to add FAQs when I thought I was being clever, tried to add FAQs to star ratings, and FAQs always took precedent for some reason. It seems like Google, at least in my scenario, that's what happened. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen to everyone else, but that's not an effective way of measuring something that I was doing. But yeah, I agree with you. Just go for the one.
Yeah. Also, in another post, John said that if you had a page with multiple recipes, that's not a good time to mark up the recipes. Do it on the specific items.
Yeah, because you're not going to get 20 recipes marked up. The whole page. That'd be
no Christmas feast pages.
Probably just confusing them. If you have them all, right? There's no really way for them to use it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So they probably don't.
So it's a blessing of too many riches. Yeah.
Right. Too many to choose from. And they don't really know what it pertains to on the page, right? Because they aren't just going to show you a featured snippet that doesn't give more information on the page than what's just in the snippet. Or
it's like when you crawl a page and the page has two titles and two main headings and two meta descriptions, and we'll only show you once in the crawl at a time.
Yep.
Google just says, well, write your own since you can't. We'll replace it with ours since you can't decide.
So you've got two titles. Good. We don't like either one of them. We'll make our own.
Yeah, you got two. We don't like either one of them. Sorry. We're rewriting.
Also, I noticed the server issue that brought up about changing IPs, where Google said a while ago IPs don't matter at all. Going on to Cloudflare, Fastly, like content delivery networks, people are adding to their servers, or they're just switching servers. Like you're switching hosting from A to B. It makes sense that Google would wait to see the type of power that the site can take now with the new IP address. See if it can.
Yeah, but it doesn't rank IP addresses. It
of course
ranks
not. Yeah.
URLs. So all that really pertains to is it might affect the crawl rate until they figure out that you haven't changed server or whatever. Because sometimes you don't even change servers and your IP could change.
Absolutely. Dynamic IPs on a lot of content delivery networks.
Not just dynamic IP, but say you change your account, you're still on the same server, but they've given you a different IP because that IP group is different, right? So
Absolutely.
that could happen.
Yeah. There were a series of papers that Google followed when Google first started indexing the web. And one of them included a page on crawling by Lawrence Page and Young-Ho Cho, which talked about different importance metrics for pages and which pages would get indexed first when Google crawled. And it looked at features such as how much page rank the page has, how short the URL is, how close it is to the home page, to the root.
Depth.
And I asked John Mueller in a interview with him and somebody else whether or not Google still use those more importance metrics, and he said, no, we've moved on from there. He didn't say what they replaced it with.
It's probably a lot more complicated than a list you could make.
Well, Google tracks how often people come to pages and what kind of ranking pages have. And those can give you some idea of what pages they might find the most importance in and index most.
Yeah. I've seen pretty conclusive evidence, at least in my opinion, that the deeper the pages, not all the time, but the deeper the pages, the farther away from the homepage, the less likely it is to rank. But that's not all the time. There's standout issues, so it shows that it's not a rule at all.
If you've got a news website with the front page that changes every half hour, chances are Google is probably going to come back every half hour indexing the page.
They're indexing
even faster.
It understands the rate of frequency of change.
Yeah, like New York Times, Wall Street Journal, all those guys are getting crawled constantly.
It wants to capture and index everything.
Makes sense. But it also makes sense for them to look at the power of the server through the IP address and see if it can actually, how fast they can index it without hurting the site's performance.
Right. It's the first time I heard of a politeness protocol.
I know. You're very kind of Google.
I mean, you think back to the mailing group that came up with robots.txt, and they're the ones who came up with politeness, because there were robots that would index sites all the time, regardless of how well the site could handle it or not.
Very true. Very, very true.
So that's something else that Google is looking at. If we crawl this site once every 15 minutes, are we going to take it out?
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Like people, I mean, I've talked to some people about Google crawling their site and saying it might be a little bit slower. I don't think it makes too much of a difference today, but it does happen.
We see a lot less mirror URLs on the web these days.
Yep.
Most sites can handle traffic coming to them.
Yeah. Hosting's gotten a lot better because of competition, and reverse proxies and CDNs have gotten a lot better.
See a lot less pages where they're adding numbers to the www.
Yeah. www2.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, multiplex and all that stuff. But no, I completely agree. It's I think like the average server must have gotten probably 5-6 times faster in the past 5 to 7 years. And I bet with Google's core web values, it's going to be cracking the whips at the server companies now. I'm surprised they just haven't built in the core web values tools into the servers yet.
Not much you can do. A lot of times that's tied to how much you're paying for your hosting, right? Can't do much about it. If you're paying $5 or $10 a month, you shouldn't expect fast. You should pay how lucky the thing runs every time I go there.
Exactly. And
the risk you take on that kind of contract.
If you're on a shared web host and you're paying the minimum, yeah,
they don't care at all. Or if people are doing free web hosting, geez.
I mean, if you're on
the
that's even worse.
If
way
you're on
worse.
Angel Fire site,
Yep. Just creating content for them. But I mean, yeah.
Probably not too bad if you're on Google.
Google's got decent cloud, has a decent cloud now. I agree. And
have your website on Google. You can do that, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Are they still hosting sites on Blogspot?
I think so.
No, through Google My Business, you can create your own website.
Are those templated websites?
Yep.
They're pretty like basic stuff.
They're really basic, but and they're based on AMP, I believe.
Yeah, they are.
They're AMP site.
They're very fast and they're very,
but you know, if you're a small business and don't have hundreds or even thousands of dollars to build a website, probably a good way to get established at least.
I mean, I remember seeing businesses in Google local search that didn't even have websites.
Right.
Yeah. I have a friend that's a plumber and he said, Google me. He doesn't have a website.
You search for a gas station and you'll see gas stations without websites appear. Because they want to show you the closest.
Makes sense why the Sunoco down the street wouldn't have a website.
You don't have to have a website in order to have a Google My Business listing.
Yeah.
It helps, but you don't have to have one to get it.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was the idea behind Google local search anyway. It was supposed to be like a directory of businesses.
Right.
It was Daniel Egner. He entered a contest for Google to get a grant because Google was offering a grant. Give us your best ideas. And this guy said, you should have a business directory. And he won.
Wow. Makes sense.
Add a business directory to Google. Oh, yeah. Someone probably eyes lit up and said, "Oh, money, yeah."
It was like 2003, and his name's on patents from them now.
In 2003, business directories were a big deal. They were great.
Still are.
Thomas
If you want to rank for local, you're looking for professional and local directories.
Somebody left a phone book on my front doorstep within the past year or so. I think I threw it away.
Throw it at them.
I remember coming into an apartment building and they used to leave them on a skid down in the lobby. The whole skid sat there for, I think, about a month before someone called them and they came and got them. Because no one took it. That's when I said, geez, I think my choice to become a web developer was a pretty good idea.
Do you remember the books that they came out with for a few months many years ago that listed URLs for businesses?
I do. I saw one.
They look like phone books. They were so thick.
Yeah.
It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It'd be like some long domain / dot. Like, what the heck? They'd be trying to target a product. Brutal. /category / blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh.
A lot of small publishers did those kind of classified books and sold them.
Oh, it makes sense for some people. Yeah. In some places.
I used to use that over the phone book because it was all local businesses. In a metropolis, they send you halfway to Timbuktu.
Yeah, there was a newsstand I used to like go to pick up the newspaper, and before I went to eat breakfast somewhere, so I could read the paper and drink some coffee. And they used to sell those directories for about 2 months.
Yeah, they were short-lived.
They didn't last longer than 2 months or so.
Yeah.
When I was telemarketing, I worked for a few companies that did that kind of stuff. And then they started selling ads for the fire department.
There was same newsstand that carried books about HyperCard. So it's a good idea, except they should connect to more than one computer.
Yeah, no, there were some great ideas out there. Who knows? Fast Jeeves could have been the next Google. No, I'm just kidding. It's terrible.
Who was the guy who showed up in the Ask Jeeves commercials?
Oh, is that the
It's
butler
a
from?
long Greek name.
Oh, I don't know. The guy who asked the Great Poupon thing.
His first name began with A and his last name began with G. And it was like Geropopoulos.
It sounds right.
And he could have been the Sergey Brin of his time.
Yeah.
Or the Larry Page.
The DuckDuckGo now is trying to be, their TV ads are all over the place showing them as the private search engine.
They don't show DuckDuckGo ads in California.
It's on the web, like for HBO Max and stuff. Like sometimes, every once in a while, you'll see like a quick, like or I shouldn't say HBO Max, Amazon stuff, Amazon Prime. You'll see like a 2-second commercial, and I saw one for DuckDuckGo twice, and I was like, "DuckDuck, what?" No, it just said like we don't share your information with everything. Kind of going the Apple route, sort of like a privacy first search engine, but. If for people who think that like their information is not already out there, just to let everyone know it's already out there. Sorry, if it's on Google, it doesn't matter if you use DuckDuckGo to search stuff.
There are internet service provider companies selling that address data to the web all the time.
Yeah. That's the other thing. The pipe doesn't care what you do, what you search through.
You search for your name, and you'll get 20 or 30 listings of where they think you live.
Oh yeah, I've seen some very accurate stuff.
Something to check on, so you can pay them more money.
Right, pay us $10 a month. We'll remove your stuff. That's like you can actually opt out of those guys if you call and threaten to sue them, and then say just opt me out.
I think some of the ones that listed you unless you didn't want to be listed.
Yep.
And then they listed you twice.
Yep.
I think some of those have gone out of business.
There's a handful of some that I have a friend that's pretty prominent, like very well known, and he's been listed. We've opted out of him about 5 times, and he just keeps getting put back on there. They remove his middle initial, put a new one back in. Change like the dot after this middle initial. I'm like, come on, guys. They're like, we can't tell the difference. It's like, really? Like, how about all this other data that connects to it? Just, it's that one person if all this other data matches.
So this is a reason to get involved in multiple social networks to push the negative sites down in the search engines.
If anyone has any negative SEO, those are the best. LinkedIn, all that stuff.
So you have a LinkedIn listing, and you have a Twitter listing. You have a Facebook listing. And you just
even Pinterest, the garbage to the bottom.
Yeah.
They were even doing PPC for some people, like well-known people they were doing PPC for. So you'd see an ad with their information. It's like, what the hell are they thinking? They want that $10 a month, I guess. But it's surprising. They showed vehicles that the person drove, and they were pretty much right. And they showed like neighbor. It was creepy stuff. MyLife.com is the site that I don't like the most.
Kind of invasive.
Yeah, stepping way over the bounds of like, no.
It's like they hire people to follow you around and take pictures.
Yeah, it's almost as accurate.
It's like the TMZ for non-celebrities.
Exactly. Yeah. And all celebrities have the ability to at least get some sort of protection, but everyone that's not, they're just going to go one by one and find some sort of. They even name they give you a score of 1 through 5, saying if you're a good person or not, like based on the data that they have. Basically, it's a rep score, they call it. It's terrible. And
I missed mine. I must not be a good person.
I've opted myself out every time I've done this for this other person, so I'm lucky I don't exist.
I think there might be a correlation between the number of times you opt out of something and how often you show up in them.
Yeah, I agree with that. But they always try to pitch you on, hey, just $10 a month, we'll get you out of these other 20 sites as well. I'm like, oh, your other PBN that you created.
It's like the spam emails you get that you can unsubscribe from. And when you unsubscribe, you're actually guaranteeing that you get more.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the worst. But Google's actually done some good things for some of the websites that treat people unfairly, just defamation sites that are just dumping on people with no proof that they did anything.
Like they've gotten rid of mugshots.
They reduced it at a time. I know they said that without people used to have to pay to get their mugshots removed, right? And then Google said that they were going to de-index those. And now, but some of them still exist, and they say they're free in huge letters. But I don't know if they're getting advertising money. I think Google should go the other way and get rid of Google Ads on them or any sort of advertisement. Just ban them altogether. I mean, innocent until proven guilty, right? Like it's kind of something that most people should have the right to.
Yeah, I think the search engines still follow the it's better to ask for forgiveness and permission.
Yeah. Not the virtuous circle. It's a nightmare. Yeah. You imagine some people looking for a job or something like that, and you've got to deal with some search engine giving you incorrect information. I mean, or if you have a similar name to somebody.
I had a guy who was doing black hat SEO who decided to add me to a list of about 60 or 70 or more SEOs. So you can vote for the SEO you liked least. And they would have a page. And my page was showing up on a search for my name on like the 3rd page or 4th page. So I needed to add a bunch of additional pages that his page got sunk down to the point where nobody ever bothered to look for it, like page 5 or more of Google.
I'm not saying anyone should.
Where do you hide a dead body on Google? Page 2? Well, maybe page 5.
I'm not saying anyone should do this, but there's this search query called Booters, Booters. And if somebody happens to be doing something like that, you might want to stress test their site. It's a thought. You can do it for very little. I'm not saying I've done it or I know anyone that's done it. I've read about it, and you can stress test their server's ability to stay online for a very long time for very little money.
It does a distributed denial of service attack?
I wouldn't call it that. It's just stress testing. But yeah. Yes. It DDoSes the hell out of them, bounces them off the planet, locks them out of their own site. They get pissed quickly. But, hey, if they're doing something that's crossing the line and just.
So what were free-for-all links?
Free-for-all links? Oh, gosh. Yeah. I know the name, but I'm trying to remember. You
put an email address in there and they
give you backlinks?
Sent lots of links from people.
Oh yeah. Oh, so it's sort of like how they did with audiences on Twitter and other systems, where they'd be like, "Oh, you want 5,000 followers here? You click this, and you get all these people. How do I remove myself? How do I unfollow?" Like that type of thing, but it's just a bunch of spam links. Yeah. Gosh, I'm glad those things are not. I haven't seen anything for those recently.
Some stuff is disappearing from the web.
It's
It's not a bad thing.
SEO video show. Hi, happy Tuesday. Yeah, no, it's good. And some things for the better, like Google pushing down those crappy results. And once they figure out, I think with BERT, figuring out what they are is going to become easier and easier. And then just not indexing them to begin with, or showing them up for a day and then they're gone.
So what is this I'm reading about content on category pages? You can have too much content on your category pages?
That's something I'm interested in too.
What's that?
Apparently so. John seems to think that you can have too much. Barry in his article seemed to say that he was referring to all types of pages. But when I read John's comments, I thought he was just talking about e-commerce pages.
Taking like 5,000 words and putting it underneath the category page of like a group of
putting a bunch of words at the end is stupid to begin with, because it's always best to have the content at the top.
I put my H1s at the bottom, man. No.
I was trying to read an article last week on Google that somebody had written where they didn't give the conclusion at the start of the article. It was like 5 or 6 or 7 paragraphs down.
Oh, it's a secret.
And it kept on leading to the conclusion. And the web page kept on breaking before it got there. So somebody had sent it to me in like Skype, and it's like, "Did you read that?" I said, "I've been trying to, but I still don't know what the heck it's talking about yet."
So it kept breaking as you scrolled?
I was trying to scroll down on my phone, and you scroll down to a certain point on the phone, and it's one of these gossip type sites where you accidentally click on something and it brings you to an ad. Something like that.
That's the worst.
It's so crowded together, on a phone, it's easy to click the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go out and unclose the actual browser itself now, and that happens. Just start a redirect fire.
Well, when somebody sends something to you somewhere where you don't have access to a desktop computer, you only have a phone.
Oh yeah.
You're stuck with what you have.
Yep. And also like tiny URLs or masked URLs used to be a bigger problem. Now most email providers catch them, but not all. I'm surprised Google doesn't have a better system for it.
I think how much you put on a category page should depend on how much other stuff you're putting in below what you're adding. Like for me, when I start a blog or a website, right, and there's very few articles in each category, well, I block the categories because they're just a waste of indexing until you have enough content there for them to index. However, if you put more at the top that kind of talks about the category and then have a few posts after, you can do it right away.
Of course,
I like having categories for blog pages as long as there's a reasonable amount.
Right.
But I've worked on blogs for agencies where one of the categories was something like #1 SEO firm.
Yeah.
Right. Most blogs I've looked at, I finally looked at them and said, you've got 4 different topics here that could all be one topic. And that's a common mistake where you have multiple authors. because they don't really bother to look at the categories that are already there.
That's why content briefs are so important. I think you have to write them out for how the author should actually do it.
Well, what you do is you turn it off so idiots can't add categories.
That works.
That's
too.
the real.
Yeah.
That's the fix.
Or just tell them the category to put it under.
Tagging is a risk because people will tag for different reasons too.
Some people go crazy with that stuff. Yeah, I've seen.
I used to tag pages, but now
it makes sense from
I
UX
don't see 'em.
perspective, but not from a search like for usability. I understand. Like you want to see SEO articles only. You want to see content articles only.
well, they can be important for the search, internal search on WordPress, because it uses those tags pretty heavily.
Right. Right. So if those are done well, that's great. But if they're done poorly and it's just a
You know what's good is have the tags in the database, but not displayed on the page.
and so then if they're not displayed, people can't click them. But what does it do?
Right, right.
It just gives them so you can index them.
However, the keywords are internal there for the search.
Oh yeah,
So-
you're right.
So your tags are acting as annotations and recommendations from the
Perfect.
creator of the index.
For the internal query.
Right. In a like a Google custom search.
Yeah, sort of like that. Yeah.
Oh, just when I was looking up how the search on WordPress worked, it said it uses tags pretty heavily.
Has anyone tried Elasticsearch or anything like that on WordPress?
I use it all the time.
Elasticsearch? Yeah, me too. I like it a lot.
Well, it's good for finding other pages. So if I want to link to a page, I'll do a search right in the
It's amazing. Yeah, for
dialog
that.
box, and it'll tell me what pages I've written already that use the terms that I put in there.
Yep. And you
So-
can do
It's a good way to link up stuff.
manual related posts and also no hitting to the database either, which makes it fast.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. Elastopress plugin by 10up is pretty good for that. And
But when I was doing my own theme, I don't even write tags to the page because I think SEO, they're not SEO.
I think I like them for UX on a handful of pages. Just depends on what.
Yeah, but okay. I have not seen too many that I would really want to get in.
No, I'm thinking of like one or two myself.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I don't want them indexed, what's the easiest way to do it? Well, just not put a link to it. That's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That absolutely. Then your idiot writers can put 15 tags on a page and it doesn't affect it.
It's very true. Yeah. What are you going to name your themes, if you don't mind me asking, when they come out? Or
SEO for WordPress. What else?
I think that's the name of Yoast's plugin.
Oh, even better.
SEO themes for WordPress.
This is called Yoast SEO plugin, I believe.
It's WordPress SEO, I believe. Yeah, WordPress SEO.
Whatever. There's already a website that's called WordPress or SEO for WordPress.
Yeah, no, that's great. Like, I think I'll buy the theme as soon as it comes out.
It might be a while. Development's kind of hit a stalling point where I'm trying to decide a couple of things that I want to do and not in the mood to do them yet. So I'm not in a rush.
Understood.
I'd rather do it right than.
Yeah, not do it correctly.
I've written so many applications and stuff for SEO that I never release because I'm a perfectionist. I just don't put my name on anything.
So there won't be a 1.1? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there will be, because that will be, it's going to release with only 3 types of schema being covered. When I'm done, it'll cover everything that Google does.
Wow. So one thing I found helpful is WordPress and now Shopify allow you to write in boxes, which is kind of helpful if you're going for a featured snippet, or if you want to make something stick out on the page, just so that when people skim the page instead of read it like a novel. I think it's good for UX and might work as a featured snippet as well, or as a definition box. In some cases, not in all. But I've seen, I've definitely, what do you guys think of the AMP URLs that don't have /AMP on them? They don't work on Safari, I guess, and maybe one other browser.
I think Google put that you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, there's an option with coding that you don't have to do it anymore, and then Cloudflare made it so you don't have to do it anymore. But
if Safari is picking it up, then
Safari
that's
and
on an iPhone, so probably not one you want to screw with.
Right, exactly. About half the mobile searches are there. So
I don't know what iPhone's market share is.
Just a little bit less than Android, I think. It's pretty close.
God, don't tell me that. They're so overpriced. That's just stupidity. Sorry.
No, hey, no offense taken. I got used to something and I continue to use it, so it works. But like at the same time, you're right. Like they are overpriced. You can get an iPhone SE for $200 now, I think. And the iPhone 13 will be coming out, and they'll always give deals on the older ones then, and hopefully on that one. But
see, if someone said, "Here, you can buy a phone. It's $1,000." I'd say, "Why would I buy a phone when I can buy a computer?" I mean, that makes no sense to me.
No, I don't blame you. I definitely don't blame you. The prices are getting ridiculous. But most Android devices are, how much do they cost for like a Pixel 2 or something, or Pixel 3?
I don't know.
About $200.
$200? That's, wow. With the carrier's subsidization, or with just for like the phone directly?
As soon as you put Android on a phone, it's like a quarter of the price of iPhone.
Wow. Better check into that, I guess.
Now you're paying for a bloody operating system on iPhone. That's the difference.
Yeah.
iPhones can do things that Androids can't. Like they can sync with other Apple computers.
Right. Like I use all Apple computers, so that's really helpful.
So Samsung syncs with my computer.
So if you have an iPhone, you can set your computer up to ring.
Yep. You get phone calls.
So when you're on your computer,
you can get phone calls through your computer.
You get a FaceTime phone call. It works just like Zoom, believe it or not. You can have a bunch of people, like just like we're talking.
Right.
On
that doesn't work with Android.
You have to set up like a Google Meet or something like that.
It's like a conference call then, eh, Bill?
It's like syncing.
Oh, okay.
It calls in through your phone or your computer, whichever one you pick. And
I have a Samsung with Android on it, and it syncs to my computer. I don't think the phone rings.
Your phone can ring on your computer, and you can make phone calls from your computer using your phone.
And in the newest update of Mac's operating system for desktop, they're going to actually have, so you can use the apps on your phone on your computer. So that'll open up a whole new thing. And I actually, today when I was trying to get my Wi-Fi password from my fiance, I just found out that as soon as I held my phone near the computer, I was able, and it showed me that I was trying to look for the password for it. It said share Wi-Fi password. And that was really cool. It's like, oh, save me some time. Yeah, so like it's got a lot of cool features. I like it a lot. It's what I'm used to. Going from BlackBerry to iPhone after the iPhone 2 or 3, something like that. But
I just don't like giving Apple any of my money.
Apple's
There's stuff I
definitely,
want to watch on Apple TV, but just because it's Apple TV, I won't watch it.
I inherited an old Apple and it needed a new floppy drive. And I tried to buy a floppy drive and replace it, and it wouldn't let me.
yeah, Steve Jobs' evil idea of like non-compatibility.
I needed to have the operating system upgraded, and I can only get the operating system upgraded by a certified repair person
Right.
who wanted to charge me an arm and a leg.
Just for the OS. But you know what Mac OS it was?
7.
Oh, wow. Okay. So since then, you can upgrade all your OSs without any problems, and it's gotten a lot easier since then. But
Well, they wanted to separate me from my money as quickly as they could.
yeah, Steve Jobs is the reason for that. He wanted to make it so like when the Lisa came out, he did make it so all the tools were proprietary, weren't real screwdrivers. They were just something else that works like a screwdriver, but no one has. And even some of the engineers didn't have.
A Sparks driver, yeah.
Yeah, there's just some crazy way of keeping people out of their machines. And I mean,
it was like a flex driver, but it had more than 4 points.
yeah, exactly. And like if Steve Wozniak didn't win that argument apparently with him about the slots for the Apple II, which made that company, Apple wouldn't exist without Apple II, and have 10 slots being able to allow people to expand on the machines, then Apple wouldn't be anything today probably. But Steve Jobs was locked down everything, unfortunately. Like I bought a Mac Pro, which is a big tower, and that's the only computer which you can actually change out hard drives and stuff. Everything else, hard drive dies, your computer dies pretty much. There's some third-party stuff, but it's not.
Yeah, I was going to computer shows and buying original equipment manufacturer parts, which were affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Put together a computer, and you had one that worked really well for a while until you wanted to replace something else.
I've heard of a lot of people building Hackintoshes, which is just because Intel became the main chip. They were able to build their PC and run Mac OS OS X on their computers, and every once in a while Apple will run an update and mess it up or something, but most of the time it worked pretty well. Because when you look at the computer, it's just the sum of its parts. But I do agree. Like Apple,
when I did computer support, we were getting updates from Microsoft that messed with other software.
Oh,
we had other programs like WordPerfect. I worked for a court. The courts loved WordPerfect because they actually built programs that were good for legal secretaries, so they could run macros that would help them create orders really quickly.
Yeah,
So Microsoft would issue a Microsoft system update that messed with Corel products.
Oh man!
And broke the macros.
So they could sell more Word.
So Microsoft would come out with those updates on Wednesdays. So Corel started coming out with updates on Tuesdays. You did the Tuesday updates on Corel, and it would negate the Wednesday updates on Mac that broke Corel products.
I know a guy who does all the IBM stuff for UCF, and he basically was like, puts everything on deep freeze for the updates so they don't kill everything else, and then so you can back it up right. It's like what a nightmare, in some of the systems. But backwards compatibility is a must with any update, you think. I
mean, when you have a judge trying to do a sentencing order on a serial killer,
you want to get that one right.
You make sure they can handle the serial killer.
Yeah, they don't give them 15 days instead of 15 years or 15 to life, whatever it is. Yeah, it's frightening.
I mean, when your defendant is a guy who murdered the scheduling clerk for the governor of the state,
Jeez.
you make sure his sentencing goes through.
Yeah, no technical errors. I'm gonna let him get out. Jeez. How many technicalities have you seen in the court of law that let people go free? Is that more of a TV thing, or is it?
It's more of a TV thing than anything else.
Probably happened like 3 times in real life, every day on TV.
My biggest problem was somebody would get arrested, the police would charge them with certain charges. Some of those were felonies, so they needed to be indicted on those. So prosecutors would then indict them on new charges, which would be separate from the ones in the police headquarters computer system. So
They wouldn't see each other?
they would indict the new charges. We would have cases. We would find them guilty or innocent or so on. They would continue to have the charges in the police headquarters system, even though they're different. So they'd be held on the police stuff, and the prison would call me and say, has this charge been taken care of? William Johnson, which one?
Wow.
There are 57 William Johnsons.
Yeah, in one county, probably.
You have a state bureau of identification number.
That's just a serial number for a person, I'm assuming?
It's a serial number for a person.
That makes sense.
And this way we could tell, and I could send them a new commitment or release if necessary.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think like the Unix-based system is a better, like permissions-based system is better for some things, but
So the Deputy Attorney General would sometimes send them notice of nolle prosequi, no prosecution on some of those charges to get rid of them.
really, they drop it right then and there.
The police charge. So we would have the police. We would have the criminal justice system do things to get people to plead guilty to things. Someone would burglarize a place, and they'd bring their Sears Craftsman 101 tool piece set with them to the burglary. So they'd get one charge of burglary, and they'd get 101 charges of possession of a burglary tool. The 101 charges each carried 1 year sentence.
101 years in the can?
The burglary charge carried a 6-year sentence.
Jesus.
So the prosecutor would say, if you plead guilty to the burglary charge, we'll drop all the possession of burglary tool charges.
So even if you weren't there,
instead of 107 years, you'll get 6.
They didn't worry about if like maybe the guy was innocent and he wasn't there. He might just plead. He might just take the 6.
They wanted the plea. They didn't care if he was innocent or guilty.
No.
That's sad. Have you seen a lot of reversals in your time? Like people actually getting out because of
there are
innocence?
thousands of cases going on in time. You don't watch cases that closely.
Yeah. But like when they pop up when they're coming through.
There are different things get handled in different ways. Like appeals take place in another court.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So you have a really big, well-known case, you maybe pay attention to that. So if you've got the case of the guy who owned the white van with the taped up windows, who was kidnapping women and putting them in the back seat and then duct taping the chairs till he tortured them.
Jeez.
You paid attention what happened to him.
Yeah, he was making the news every night.
At some point, he fired his attorney and he filed a brief with the court asking for them to murder him, or put him to death.
Wow.
He was tired of it.
He probably chose the right thing, you know. I mean, it seems like some of those people are beyond.
He killed at least 17 or so young women.
Yeah, that's sick. I mean, and it's good that he actually realized that he was doing something wrong and wanted to pay for it or not be around anymore, not hurt any other people.
Right. He didn't want his lawyer trying to save him.
Yeah,
and fired him. Yeah.
it's a noble thing. Something that OJ should have looked into.
Or maybe he just didn't want to be institutionalized for the rest of his life.
It could be that too. Yeah. But,
No, it's bad when you know more law than your lawyer.
yeah, that's a really bad sign. If I were being represented by an attorney and I knew more, I would freak out. I don't know what I would do. What do you do? Tell the judge to stop the case, or so you can get new representation if you can afford it?
You file a brief with the court and have your attorney fired.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And we're past the hour by about 12 minutes. So thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Have a good week.
Have a wonderful day or week.